This is Leona Ruffaner of Worthington, and she's going to be our narrator today. My name's Connie Ruffaner, and I'm the interviewer. When were you born?
February the 12th, 1918.
Okay, and we've got a wonderful memento we're going to take a picture of that says all the things that happened on that date. So you have memories of the Great Depression and of World War II.
The Depression, yes. I was going to school, or I was in high school.
Were you?
Yes, I graduated from up here in 36. And I tell you, the kids, we were poor. I shouldn't say that. As a class, we didn't have a yearbook. We couldn't afford to make a yearbook. And a prom, and Mr. Laird was the principal, and we just all met in one of the rooms up there. And his sister made apple pie, and he furnished the ice cream, and that was our lunch for our prom. And we just did nothing, we just...
So what kind of work did your father do?
Well, at that time, the Depression, everybody had a garden, I tell you, everybody, because we lived in Craigsville. I was 18 when we moved out on 422. They built a house on 422, and we moved out there. But he had a horse, and he plowed gardens for people. And I remember, gosh sakes, people just had gardens everywhere, trying to raise their own food. And of course, we always had a pig, and we had a cow, and we always, Mother would make the butter and the buttermilk in the smear case, as they called it then.
Now, what was smear case?
It's cottage cheese. Same, but it was. But then they called it smear case.
Do you still know how to churn butter and make cheese?
Oh, if I had that churn that we had at home, it was one of those that you and made your butter.
How long did it take to make butter that way?
As you stomped, or why it would break the milk or the buttermilk up, and then finally you got in there with a paddle and worked it together, and then you put it in the butter bowl and worked it to get all that water out of your butter. She had a little churn. It was wooden, and it had that paddle in, and you stood there and you kept doing that. But I don't remember, how long it would take. But
a long time?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You just don't know?
I don't know whether it be an hour, or seems so it would be.
Somewhere around an hour. Okay.
Oh, probably.
What kind of stove did she cook on?
No, we had a gas stove.
Did you?
I don't know. Probably Dave still has it down there. When we sold things, it had an oven on the side. And of course, she washed on the washboard.
Do you remember electricity coming in?
I remember when we got our first refrigerator, but then we had already moved out.
To the new house?
Out to the new house. And the electric out there was REA. Do you know what I'm...
What was that?
It's from where? Up at, Shakur, or up in that.
Rural Electric.
Yes. And it's still...
They're still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
People get their electric from there.
So you had a gas stove, and you remember getting your first refrigerator. So what did you have before the refrigerator?
Just the old dirt floor in the basement where it was cold, and you set your crocks and... And, in Craigsville, we had a little pot-belly stove, like in the kitchen. And then the next room was kind of the dining room, I guess. And that's where the stove, this little stove, and we heated
your whole house, or just that room? Was it cold upstairs?
No, yes, very, very cold. No, and I think it seems to me they cut little in the ceiling, so that the heat would go up. But no, it was cold. And then gas stoves. We had one in the living room, a gas stove.
So what did you do once you graduated?
Well, when I graduated in 36, I went to work at Craigsville Supply was the name of this. It was a company store. The Graffs had the sewer pipe. They built a sewer pipe. And and then there was a company store there, workers and so on. But I went to work as a clerk. There was several of us. James Henry was the man that run the store, you know. But I worked there. And that was 36. And I was married in 41. So I probably worked
like 5
there.
years. So tell us how did a company store, how did that work?
You waited. If somebody came in and wanted a can of corn, you went and got the can of corn. The clerk did. You know, or whatever. You went and got it. It wasn't the person that. And then we went around through town and took orders. You would go. Usually one of the other, Frank Williams worked there, and he would go around to the houses that he knew, you know, and write their order down, whatever they wanted, and then he'd bring it back to the store, and we'd fill the orders. We'd fill them in boxes, and then when we got them done, then he would deliver them.
So if people grew a lot of their own food and they had a cow and a pig and chicken, did they have chickens?
We did. Well, at first, I remember we had some chickens, and then we got rid of them anyway, and Dad made us a playhouse out of the chicken coop. In fact, I still have the little table down in the basement that he made me and we had there was a whole bunch of kids in Craigsville at that time. We had lots of children, and the neighbors, you know, we had this playhouse, and
the neighbors came to visit you?
Yes, they would come down, you know.
So,
when I started to school, probably 6 years old, there was a one-room school in Craigsville.
Was it a company town or just had a company store?
No, there was a lot of the men that worked at the sewer pipe lived in Craigsville. Yes, they did. And then they brought some families from Irondale, Ohio, because they had a sewer pipe there. And these men knew the ropes, that's the way you would say it. And they came because Mary Fagan Everson and she in 4th grade when they moved here. And we became very good friends, and we were friends up until she graduated from college, in which I didn't have that chance, and had a wonderful job with golf. She worked as a secretary to one of the big people. Then she retired, and she bought a house out Bear Street here, across the Ruffaner plan. All those houses. She bought one of them.
So how did you meet your husband?
Well, in school, he went through graduated the same year. There was only, 20 of us, I think, that graduated. There's only 2 of us left.
So you grew up with your husband?
Well, no, not till in high school.
In high school, you
I'd say. Okay. Well, I was in 7th grade when we moved from Craigsville, from the school. Now, we had that one-room school, all the classes, all 8 grades. And then they built a bigger one down this way, and it's still there. And they had, 3 or 4 on one side. There was 2 rooms, and one room would have the maybe first through, because I left there 7th grade. When we were in 7th grade, while we come to Worthington.
And that's where you went to high school?
That's where I finished school.
Now, was that the same building that's down here now?
Yes, it is.
Where the library is?
Now, the library, it had my son and daughter, too. They would go, he was in 1st grade, in where the library is, you know, the younger children, and then the older. And then, of course, there was the school over on out Ross Street here. There was a school, the Worthington, but it burned.
Oh.
So they brought those children up. They made rooms out of the gymnasium. They put partitions up, and until, so maybe that's when they built where the library is.
That building.
Yes, that building.
So were there people in the building when it burned down, or was it?
Yes, the children, there was children.
They were there.
Well, I was married then and living down here on Main Street across from the feed store in the Wiley house when it burned. But it was very organized to get the children out. And
So they all got out.
oh, yes.
All those fire drills, and they paid off. Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I do, very well.
Tell us about that.
Well, I just remember of hearing about it and
From people talking, or did you?
yes, probably.
What did they say? Do you remember?
No, just,
Were they shocked?
yes, I think it was, it was a big, it was a,
But they weren't expecting that.
no, gosh, no.
Do you remember? Did your husband go to the war?
No, he failed. I remember we were married and we went to Canning and they took them on the train, and took them to Pittsburgh. But when he got to Pittsburgh, and I went down to Dr. Beer was here in Worthington at the time, and to see why or what they thought. But no, he didn't. I guess that's what you would say. He was what, F?
4F?
4F.
So for some
But
physical, you don't know why.
we just kept living the same, you know.
Yeah.
Then, Sue was born in 44 and David in 47.
Do you remember air raid warnings?
Oh, gosh sakes, yes. Well, I didn't sue me. Well, probably all the people around Worthington, you would sign up. And they had a little building up at the school. On the Ball Diamond, it would be a little building. And you would go up there. There was a little stove in there, too. You would go up there and sit. You would sign up to watch for planes flying over any. And if there was one, flying over, you had this number that you had to call. Remember, Arbutus Anthony, B. Anthony and I, we were together. Gosh, we traded recipes, and we were used to being around here. We knew she was married. Now, her husband was in the service, Ted Hellam. She was an Anthony, and she married Ted Hellam. And so he was in the service, Ted was. But no, I remember going up there, and then you'd sign up for so many hours to watch for planes.
Did you see planes?
I don't remember that we ever did, that we ever had to call in, that you had to tell them what direction, they were. No, I often think about, I wonder how many people know that you did that.
I've never heard that one before.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
And it must have been maybe, because I don't remember now that there was a stove or anything. Maybe that would be in the summer that you didn't need.
That's a good
you
story.
Say that's the first time.
Nobody's told us that.
Well, did anybody say about this WPA then?
No, tell us about that.
Well, I don't. It was when the war was on, and hey, you were hard up, and they would get a job, and they were building roads and buildings and things like that. But I can't. I even went and got my old dictionary out to see if it was
the Works Progress Administration.
Yeah, that would be.
So they built roads?
Oh, yes, anything, yes. And they would get paid, probably their wages weren't that much, but that was better that they needed.
Yeah.
But then, like I say, we were fortunate because Dad could plow gardens and my mother could sew, bless her heart. My gosh, people would give her maybe an old coat or something and she'd rip it all apart. And gosh, us kids, we just was all dressed up. I think I was in first grade before I had my black dress, and oh my gosh, did I think I was dressed up, with a black dress on, because so used to her sewing. But no, gosh, she sewed. Oh, because her and I one time walked from Craigsville down to the woolen mill Graffs had that, you know, and they had material, and you could buy it. And we bought green like wool, because she made the skirt and the coat, you know, and it was just beautiful. I remember we were fortunate, that's all.
How many children were in your family?
Just 3 girls, and I'm the oldest, and the other 2 has since, well, Della, it was a year in March that she passed away. She was the youngest, and Frida was 2 years younger than I, and she's been gone 3 years, and I'm still hanging on. I had my license from the time I was 16 up, and I still have them. They're good till the 14.
So you learned to drive when you were 16. Who taught
Yes. Oh, Dad and the neighbors in Craigsville, anybody that, and then, well, like I say, when we left Craigsville, I was 18 when they built the house out the road, and I was still working at the store. And he worked at Laird's Crossing. He run the shovel to dig the clay to make the tile. And I would drive sometimes. And then Frank Williams, he worked, and he lived on out Butler Road, so he would stop and pick me up then. And I used to walk out the road and up over the Ruth Hill.
Is that a steep one?
Well, it was up. My grandparents built the house up there, you know, and that's where they lived, and raised 10 children. There was 5 of 5.
So you drove, but you also just walked a lot of places, too.
Yes. Oh, yes. When you lived in Craigsville, it wasn't anything to walk to Yellow Dog, to the dances. And
how far away was that?
Yeah, down here at the foot of the hill, where the Graffs lived.
Right.
That bridge.
Right.
You have to cross a bridge to go to Yellow Dog and to Craigsville. But so from Craigsville, Delson comes from he has to go down through Yellow Dog and up over the hill and comes out onto the Slate Lake Road to go anywhere. But well, there's a lot of different ways. But anyway,
Now, when you would walk to the dance, would you walk with friends?
Oh, yes. Down back of, between Craigsville and where there was a pond, and then you'd go down there and skate in the wintertime. You'd walk down. There was a railroad track, went to Yellow Dog because they dug the limestone out of the...
So you walk along the track?
Yeah, we'd walk down the track or the road or whatever. No. You know, even in Craigsville, if you wanted to go up to Grandma Ruth's, why, I'd just run up the railroad track. But and then that was another thing that we used to do in Craigsville, us kids. They had a siding, and they would pull onto the siding to let another train go by, you know. And then they kept ice. The engineer would keep ice in a place to keep their water, you know.
Right, yeah.
And we knew that, and us kids, we'd go up there, you know, and yell, yeah, give me a piece of ice. And, you know, they'd throw out a hunk of ice. It was all over coal dust. But we'd take it down home. Mother would wash it off and make lemonade. No, it was so good. When I think back of the Craigsville days.
What kind of games did you play?
Well, at home, be checkers or dominoes or Old Maid, because I never remember, and I don't think we ever had a deck of cards in the house, because to this day, I don't know one card from the other. I never learned. And my husband played cards.
Did you play games like tag or kick the can? Or?
Oh, yes, we did. And we'd ride, and maybe a couple of kids would have a bicycle, you know, and we'd ride bicycles up along the creek. Craigsville's just right along the creek. And that's another thing we did. We swam in that. Oh, that was wonderful, going down there and jumping in that old dirty creek where all the sewers run into, you know. And we did. Every kid, you know. There was what they called the blue hole on up the creek. It was deeper. And in the wintertime, the creek would freeze over, and we'd walk on the ice, you know, walk all way down, either or up the creek, you know. And then it would go out and it'd be a flood. You know, would flood up there at Tartown, because I had a friend that had a camp up there. No, I think we were fortunate I was the only girl in first grade to get back to that one room. And, you know, I don't remember, I don't think I even knew my ABCs when, you know.
So the outhouse was out behind the house.
Oh, gosh sakes, yes.
So in the winter, in the night, did you go out there?
No, you had, you know, the slop jar, I think they called it. No, in Craigsville especially, you know, no, we had. Is there anything else that you
think
can?
we're pretty much done. I would really like to thank you. So you got married at your house on Christmas Eve. Now, what did you wear?
Oh, there, I should show you the picture. I had a white dress. It was long. It was kind of a gown-like. It was plain, but had a sweetheart neckline, and the back was pretty. I mean, it was just the immediate Greer's family and the grandparents and so on, you know.
When you were young, how did you do laundry?
On the washboard. I mean, had that you heated water in. It was a
boiler?
A boiler, yes. You'd heat your water, you know, and I can remember my mother, you know, the washboard. And then we got the washer that you turned, and she had...
Now, was that electric, or did you crank it?
No, you cranked it yourself.
And then, was that the kind that had the wringer on the side that you put the clothes through the wringer and wrung them?
You turn it, you know, to wring them.
Now, did you have to boil the water for that too?
Yes, I mean, we didn't have, you know, the hot water tank or whatever, you know, in the basement. No, you had to heat your water for everything, anything, you know. No.
So nowadays, people take a shower every day. How often did you take a bath?
Probably maybe twice a week, and we had a little tub, you know, a little tub that we would...
Did you pump the water outside the house, or did it come into the house?
It came in the house, but it was a pump. I mean, a pump in the kitchen by the sink, right? That you pumped it, right?
Well, how did you dry the clothes in the winter?
Just headlines all over the house. You did. Wasn't that awful when you think of it? When I came over here, well, I had a washer, Maytag, you know, electric, and with the wringer and all, and you hung your clothes out until what happened that the clothesline post broke off, and they wouldn't let me put a clothesline up again.
People have big families.
Oh, they did.
Do you think it was more fun?
Well, no, I don't know. I mean, like, when we lived in Craigsville, there was just kids everywhere. People, there wasn't big families, but they would have maybe 3 or 4. That was, you know. And you'd sled ride. My gosh, you'd go to the pond and skate. But everybody, you know, you were just one big family, I guess. No, those were, I guess, the days.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
This has been a real pleasure.